Okay, let's hope this works this time. Hopefully we won't run into the same issue, but so far so good. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Good afternoon. It's pretty rainy out today here in Orlando, but hope where you are, you're healthy, you're safe. Today's question that we're going to be discussing is, why are the Jewish holidays always late or early? You know, when it comes to the holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Passover, they move around. Sometimes it's in the beginning of September, sometimes it's the end of September, sometimes early October, Passover, sometimes early April, sometimes end of April. Why is it that the Jewish holidays move around? Wouldn't it be just so much simpler if we can just have one date on the calendar that we can go by? So as we dive into this question, I want to invite you to get involved. Please let us know where you are watching from and what's going on by you. Say hello, give us some hearts, give us some love, and let us know you're here and that you're enjoying. That said, I want to give a plug to our class that we're offering this coming semester, the fall semester, for Judaic Studies at UCF. We're running a Kabbalah class, Kabbalah, Jewish Mysticism, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fully online class, and you could take it. And if you're not a student, if you're Floridian, you could audit a class and take it. If you'd like, you could do that. You could sign up, check up with UCF. But if you go to UCF's course catalog at my.ucf.edu, you can punch in course code JST3210. It's a Kabbalah class. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not a specific time during the week. Every week you get a module. You go through the module, you do all the activities, and you get to watch some videos, play some games, and other cool stuff, and learn a lot about Kabbalah. And not just abstract stuff, but stuff you could actually use to better your own life. Okay? So that could be something really cool, and we'd love to have you on board for that. And that's coming up this fall semester. So please, if you're taking some classes, you could sign up for it, and I think you'll enjoy it immensely. Otherwise, let's dive into the subject for today. Today's subject is, why are the Jewish holidays always early and late? Or early or late? So the short answer is, in one sentence, if you will, that it's because Judaism has an alternative calendar. And because we follow a different calendar, that's why it moves around. It's not really moving around on the Jewish calendar. It's always the same date, but we have our own calendar. But let me explain and dive a little deeper and give you the background of how exactly that works. So most of civilization, most civilizations use one of two calendars. There is a solar-based Gregorian calendar, and then there's a lunar-based calendar. The solar year has 365 days. The lunar month is a little less than 30 days. 12 lunar months constitute a year. But the moon doesn't really have years. The moon only has months. But when we're comparing it to the solar year, 12 months is the closest we can get to the solar year. And therefore, 12 lunar months become a year. Now, a lunar year will have 354 days to complete 12 orbits, 12 months around the Earth, 11 days less than the solar year. So when you have the lunar year and the solar year is 11 days longer, 365 days, versus a lunar year, which is 354 days. So the gap between these two calendars, at least in their pure form, are incompatible. So, for example, Islam uses the lunar calendar, which is why Muslim holidays like Ramadan end up being all across the Gregorian calendar. Ramadan falls out 11 days earlier each year in the solar calendar than the year before. So, and the opposite is true of the solar calendar holidays. New Year's Day always falls on January 1st on their solar calendar, but on the lunar calendar, its date floats throughout the year because every year you're losing 11 days. So that makes that Ramadan could sometimes be in the spring and sometimes be at other times throughout the year. It could be any time of the year. Every year it moves by 11 days and it floats around the year, so to speak. So each calendar is completely independent of the other one. And so long you stick to one calendar, life makes sense. New Year's falls out every single year differently on their lunar calendar. January 1st every single year is different on their lunar calendar. But if you're not following the lunar calendar, that makes no difference. Ramadan falls on a different day every single year on the solar calendar. But if you're following the lunar calendar and you're a Muslim and all you follow is the lunar calendar, then that's all that matters. And therefore, you could be just fine because you are stuck to your calendar. So each calendar stands on its own, and when it stands on its own, works perfectly fine. With regard to the Jewish holiday, we have an interesting result. We use an alternative calendar so that the dates of the Jewish holidays change from year to year on the solar calendar, but they do not cycle through the seasons. We never celebrate Pesach in November. We never celebrate Passover in November. But we're always on the same ballpark. Passover can move around April, but it always stays in April, mostly. Rosh Hashanah can move around September, but it always stays around the same time, give or take 2 or 3 weeks. Why is this so? How does Judaism manage to follow a lunar calendar, but at the same time keep the holidays in the same seasons it's typically at? So what we end up having is what I'll call an integrated system. So the Rambam, Maimonides, tells us about how the Torah teaches us about that as Jews we follow the lunar calendar. And to quote from the Maimonides says, "The months of the year are lunar months. As it says in the book of Numbers, chapter 28, verse 14, the burnt offerings of the month when it's renewed. Monthly renewal is relevant mainly to the lunar cycle. It also says in Exodus chapter 12, verse 2, this month shall be for you the first of the months, about which our sages comment that God showed Moses in a vision of prophecy an image of the moon and told him, when you see the moon like this, declare it a new month." So we see clearly that the Jewish months follow the lunar cycle when it comes to counting months. One reason that God chose this system for the Jewish calendar is related to the fact that the Jewish people have much in common with the moon. Okay? The Jewish people and the moon have a lot in common. But they say, before we get to that, they once asked, a teacher asked the students, which one is more useful, the sun or the moon? So one of the students raises his hand and says, obviously the moon. Teacher says, why? He says, because the sun is out during the day. And during the day, there's light. We don't need it. But at night, we have the moon. It's dark outside, and the moon gives a little bit of light. So obviously, the moon is much, much more necessary or more useful. But the truth is that the Jewish people are compared to the moon. What what happens? How does the moon work? From the first day of the month, of the lunar month, until the 15th day of the lunar month, the moon gets bigger, shines brighter, is more visible. And then from the 15th day of the month to the end of the month, the moon goes down. The moon waxes and wanes, goes up and down. And so too, the Jewish people share a very similar fate. The Jewish people are similar to the moon. The sun shines brightly, all consistently, constantly. The same rays that radiate on the first day of the week radiate on the 7th day of the week and the 15th day of the month and every other day of the month or year. Whereas the moon doesn't work like that. The moon starts off small, gets larger and larger, reaches a peak and starts going down. And so too, until it disappears from sight. But just when you thought the moon was gone, it reappears, reemerges, and starts its process all over again. This description of the moon is very similar to the story of the Jewish people. Sometimes we have been stronger, sometimes we have been weaker. Sometimes we are numerous, and sometimes we appear to have faded completely from the pages of history. Yet each time when people try to write our obituary, we come right back. Just like the moon, just when you thought it's gone, it shows up again. And we shine all over again. So although we use a lunar calendar, and we use a lunar calendar, like we said, because we are similar to the lunar calendar, we can be compared to it, we're similar to the moon, but we also, our holidays do not flow through the season like Muslims that also follow a lunar calendar. Their holidays float throughout the seasons. How do we work that out? This is because the Jewish calendar has a built-in device to integrate the solar and lunar cycles. Approximately every 3 years, where we've lost about 33 days, we add an extra month. So every third year or so, we'll add an extra month known as a second Adar. And this will, instead of a Jewish leap year, instead of having 12 months, we'll have 13 months, and we'll recoup the missing days to set the lunar and solar calendars back in sync with each other. Why is that we have this concept of a Jewish leap year to keep the calendars in sync? Because in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1, the Torah tells us, and I'll quote, "Keep the month of spring and make the Passover offering to God. For in the month of spring, God brought you out of Egypt." So we see here that the Torah is asking us not just to celebrate Passover, but the Torah is asking us to celebrate Passover in the springtime. So in addition to the historical dimension of the first Passover and celebration of our exodus and freedom took place in springtime, Passover also celebrates the beginning of the springtime barley harvest. If we did not reconcile the calendars, then sometimes Passover won't be in springtime. It would move around the calendar, flow throughout all the seasons as the other holidays of Muslims do. Our integrated calendar ensures that Hanukkah always falls out in the winter, Passover always falls out in the spring, the high holidays always fall out in the fall. So this is the concept, and this is why our holidays move around, float around a little bit. They don't float around the whole calendar, they don't float around all seasons, but they do float around a little bit, is because we are at a deficit. We follow the lunar calendar and solar calendar integrated. We're losing 11 days every year, but we're readjusting by adding a leap year, and that integrates the calendars, and that allows us to have a solar calendar and a lunar calendar that are in sync. So just to summarize this, what we just said is that we use a lunar calendar because we are associated with the moon. Nevertheless, our holidays have to be in the right season with the solar season, and therefore we have a built-in mechanism called a Jewish leap year, where we add 30 days, we add a month every third year or so we can reconcile the calendars and have both that we follow the lunar calendar and at the same time that we're celebrating the holidays in the right season. Now I want to just take it one step further and talk about how this is a lesson for us in our own lives. In the year 1984, in the year 5744 to the Jewish calendar, but 1983 and 1984 of the Common Era, it was a Jewish leap year. And at a public gathering that year, the Rebbe cited a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov that everything a Jew hears or sees or experiences must be a lesson in our divine service. And we can get inspiration and wisdom from a system that's set up by the Torah, namely the leap year that integrates the solar and lunar calendar. This could be a very profound lesson in our lives. The sun, as we said, is a steady luminary. It shines every single day, just like it did the day before. And it shines throughout history, throughout the years, throughout every single day. It's always there in its full glory. The moon, as we mentioned earlier, is highly adaptable. It changes all the time. One day it shines brighter, the next day it's weaker. It goes up, goes down, it gets fuller, it gets smaller, it gets brighter, it gets dimmer. It moves around. It's not the same every single day. We can derive a very important life lesson from this concept, says the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The reality is, and the Rebbe conveyed a powerful message in the context of educating the young children, and also the truth is that also in educating ourselves, this could be a very profound lesson. On the one hand, we teach our children and ourselves that we have to have core principles. We have to be true to God's principles with ironclad discipline to carry out God's commandments and to the letter. No matter the struggle, we have to follow, we have to do every single day. We have to be consistent. We have to be constant. We teach our children the core values that must never be compromised, even in the face of the greatest challenges. We teach them the reality that you have to be consistent, every single day the same. But at the same time, we also need to teach people flexibility and change. That you can't just be so stuck in your ways. You have to be adaptable. On the other hand, we want our children to grow and to be dynamic. We want them to be open to new ideas and be flexible in their perspectives. If they do not increase in their knowledge, in their skills, in their commitment every single day, every new day is just going to be a copy of yesterday. And we want them to be flexible and to be changing and to be, to be able to be, we want them every single day to take a step forward. We encourage them to explore, to satisfy their curiosity. We push them to learn new things and question old premises. So while study and principle are often advantageous, if they cause stagnation, then they can be harmful. So this is exactly what the leap year teaches me. The leap year teaches you and me that you have to have an integrated reality. You have to have the sun-like elements in your life, and you have to also have the moon-like elements in your life. You can't just be one way and not the other. You have to have the consistency of the sun and the adaptability of the moon. You don't bend on core principles, but you're also flexible in many ways. The leap year teaches us that we must teach our children to reconcile the conflicting modes of the moon and the sun. You must be steadfast and unchanging in your principles, but grow and change daily in respect to how we apply them. The message that God sent us through the leap year, when He directed us to reconcile the lunar and solar calendars, is that reconciliation to reconcile the two is possible. Although they appear very different and irreconcilable on the surface, the lunar and solar calendars can be integrated and can create a beautiful, harmonious system. The Torah won't allow us to embrace the sun and reject the moon. We are not permitted to embrace the moon and reject the sun. In all spheres of our life, we must embrace elements of both. It's vital for us to grow, but also it's necessary for us to remain faithful to our roots. So just to summarize real briefly, the message we learn from reconciling the lunar and solar calendars is that we must be steadfast and unchanging in our principles, yet also be able to grow and change. So just to recap real quick on the 2 points that we spoke about today, because the Jewish people are likened to the moon, ours is a lunar calendar. And because Passover needs to be in springtime, the calendar features a built-in device, a leap year, and to integrate the solar and lunar calendar so that we're always keeping Passover on the lunar calendar, but also that it stays in the right season. And the Jewish calendar teaches us that we can reconcile our lunar and solar natures. We must be steadfast and unchanging in our principles, yet we also have to be able to grow and adapt with respect to their application. That wraps up today's class. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something and know now a little bit of why the Jewish calendar works the way it does and how things float around and move. And tomorrow, our question will be, why do we say Mazel Tov? You got a promotion? Mazel Tov. You had a baby? Mazel Tov. You got a new job? Mazel Tov. You earned a new bonus? Mazel Tov. Everything Jews do, any good thing, our salutation we give is Mazel Tov. What does it mean, Mazel Tov? Where does it come from? Mazel means luck. Do Jews believe in luck? Tomorrow we'll discuss why we say Mazel Tov. Okay? That wraps up today's lesson. A brief daily reminder about our annual raffle that we're running right now. Our raffle right now is going until July 22nd is the last day you can buy tickets. It's just about 21 days left to join the raffle. And we are just about halfway to our goal. We're trying to sell 1,500 tickets. And we're at about 705 or something like that. Thank you to all of those of you who bought tickets already. It's really heartwarming, the support. Your support goes to help Jewish life on campus. Like tomorrow, we'll be giving out Shabbat dinners to go. We already have dozens of applications, people that want to get a Shabbat dinner to go. And the raffle tickets help us make that possible. Also, these Torah classes that are enabled by the raffle tickets. So please support Jewish life at UCF. Get some raffle tickets. You can buy them at jewishucf.com/raffle. Again, jewishucf.com/raffle. You can win awesome prizes like $10,000, 2 tickets to Israel, $1,000, $540, $360. The beauty is these prizes are already all paid for. Your raffle ticket money is not going to pay for prizes. And every penny you give goes to help Jewish students on campus. So please dig into your pockets, dig into your hearts, help us keep on being there for students, buy some raffle tickets and win some awesome prizes. And even if for whatever reason you don't end up winning, you know that you are an automatic winner. You win the opportunity to do a mitzvah and help so many Jewish students on campus. Again, jewishucf.com/raffle. Have a wonderful day. See you all tomorrow. Tomorrow's question,